We're going to run off some beanies, totes, and hoodies on the embroidery machine. Stay tuned. Welcome back. If you're new to the channel, be sure to check out our promo code on a Ricoma embroidery machine. It'll swing a little bit of a commission our way. That way we can continue to do some more content on the machine, and it will help us as a small business. So what we got going on today is we are doing some beanies, in which I've knocked out quite a few of them. I still have a handful more to go. I'm just working on, this is the first time I have done beanies, much less another. I think this is probably one of the second, either 2 or 3. I think this is probably the 3rd job that I've digitized. I've actually sent this out and I was not happy with the way it was digitized. Let me show you what I'm talking about real quick. Here is what we paid to have digitized. I know these are black beanies, but I think you kind of get the idea. I mean, it just did not look good. This was my first attempt at it. It still wasn't looking all that great. And then it started getting a little better. I thought I'd try their file again, but then I finally got it nailed down towards where it would actually show up. This text is pretty complicated, and I'll go into Ricoma and kind of show you what I did here in a little bit. The learning curve on hooping beanies really wasn't all that difficult. I watched a video on Ricoma's, I think they call it Embroidery Hub, and then a few other videos, and I was like, duh. Initially, I was using the hat station to do it, but soon realized that's probably not the best way to do it. So I'll show you what I learned as far as how hooping these beanies go. Yeah. But first, I need to toss this on the machine. I need to keep production going. See if I can do this one-handed. There we go. I don't know if you can see that, but I do have a little bit of a mark there, which is the center for where the beanie is at, and I'm just going to pull this down and kind of get an idea of where the center of this should be. So on the machine, I can adjust it. Let me put this on a stand. So the gist of what I'm doing is I'm pulling this needle down, and I can see where my center mark is. I'm just going to move this hoop until it's pretty much centered. With the single head machines, you can do that. You got that flexibility. So I think we're all set. So I'm gonna hit start. I'm gonna let it do its thing. What I've been doing is been putting this aqua top just to keep the fibers down of this beanie. And because it's punching so much of this design, it's pretty much, it's just tearing right up. And I'm taking the other half of this, I'll cut it down the center here, use these other sides so I'm not really wasting a whole lot. And I'm using the tearaway backing that generally you would use for caps. So that tears away pretty nicely. And then with these threads that are kind of left over on the inside, I was taking the trimming scissors and getting rid of those that way, but I found that this is a pretty quick and easy way to get rid of those. So we got that one all done. We'll toss this in our completed pile. Alright, so this is how I've been setting things up. Just making sure my tag is on the back. It'd be nice if I had an actual fabric marker, but I'm just using a dry erase marker and putting a very light, because the thread's orange, I'm just using an orange dry erase marker. We have 8 inches wide for our beanie, and I'm putting a ever so light amount of marker on there, and then I'm just going to make sure we're centered, in which it does look like we are centered, so we're good there. Now I'm just taking these beanies. I have to flip them inside out. They do want them double rolled up like that. kind of make it more like a skull cap. So here's our little mark. I'm gonna turn this guy the other way around. And then I'm using some, I was kind of on a pinch, so I went to the Hobby Lobby and just grabbed some repositionable spray adhesive. If you have a suggestion, let me know down in the comments. I know someone said 505. I'll look into that. So we're just gonna spray a little bit on this tearaway backing. I'm just gonna kind of get the camera and this away from our garments. I'm gonna let that flash off for a second. And here's our mark. So we're just going to slide this up in there, just kind of center it. And we're just gonna flatten that down onto the stabilizer. I'm gonna take my hoop and I'm just going to get this as centered as I possibly can, because we can adjust where the start point is, or our center point with our single head machine. I don't have to get it exactly centered up. Normally I would hoop these things towards where this is pointing towards the top right corner, but since we're going to feed it onto the machine like this, I'm going to turn it 180. And before I get ahead of myself, I'm just going to take some of this aqua top, which just kind of helps keep those fibers down, lets the embroidery sit on top of the beanie. So we're just going to lay this on there, make sure I have this turned 180. And we have these little center marks here in the hoop, so I'm just kind of looking at what pretty much is the knitting going straight up and down, just kind of making sure these sides are parallel along with these sides. And I'm just going to press it down. Get in your home. Probably got a little too much tension on this. There we go. And then I'm just going to pull this ring down just a little bit more, make sure it's seated, and I want to make sure it's tight as a drum. So now this is ready to go on the machine. All right, this one's all finished up. I'm gonna toss on another one, just keep on hooping. And we'll re-center this thing up real quick. Looks good to me. We're just going to kind of rinse and repeat with all of these beanies, but while that's embroidering, here are the totes here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get those out, set those aside, and then what we have to do, if you saw our last vlog, we were screen printing these here. So here is the back design, but they want that same embroidery on the front of these, so we have to do these as well, and they just kind of want it across the chest. So we got to figure out how to make that happen too. Won't be too big of a deal. Man, we've just really been thrown into the fire. Just, and what I mean by that is been pushed in the deep end with all this stuff. Taking on our own embroidery, it's definitely been a challenge. It's gone smooth for the most part. I'd say the most challenging part has definitely been just making sure the tension on the machine is okay. Occasionally doing a tension test, making sure it's all right. Every once in a while we'll have a bobbin that's just a little too tight inside of the bobbin case, in which I would just take it out and toss that out. So if anybody has any suggestions, let me know down in the comments what you have found to be a really consistent bobbin. We've been using the Sheer Stitch Ultra Bobs, but let me know down in the comments. What are you doing, lady? The beanies are all finished. I've started on the totes. It only took a moment to kind of really figure out a great way to hoop these things, and I'll show you here in a second. Here's one of the totes on the embroidery machine. And then Shannon's finishing up. Here's how the beanies look once they're all folded up. So she's just wrapping that up. And there's Michelle. Here's Este Mario doing some cool prints. And here's what that print is looking like. So I'm stacking shirts while I'm running this embroidery machine. Hopefully I don't run out of too much space. Trying to do both. How I'm hooping these is I'm basically just taking them, folding them in half, and folding it into a quarter, giving it a little bit of a crease. So now this is our center mark. I'm going to take my hoop, we'll turn this bad boy around, and we're gonna take some stabilizer. What I'm after is I'm trying to get this as center as I can. And I'm gonna do that just real quick because we are gonna load it this way. Again, rather than this being the way you load it into the machine, we're gonna take that in 1/80th. But there are marks at 12 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 3 o'clock. So we're just gonna take our center line here, line this all up, and I'm just gonna move my bottom hoop around. I do have the adjustment down here, so that way I can kind of push this thing around. Makes it a little easier. Plus, if I need to tighten it, I can just reach in there, tighten it up. And we're just gonna press it down, and that's it. We're all hooped up, tight as a drum. Since this design is all nice and centered, I just recentered it in the design settings. So this actually will go a little faster because I can just toss it on, hit start. Also, I'm running this at 1,000 stitches a minute, so that'll cut down our production time just a little bit more, by at least 20% or so, give or take. And we're gonna get these knocked out, and then we'll start working on the hood. It's the next day, and since the camera has been off, started working on the hoodies. I'm just about finished with those, but I wanted to show you guys how I went about hooping them, really. We have all of our canvas bags finished. Here are how the hoodies are looking. It's the same embroidery, just centered up on the chest. All of our beanies are finished and ready to go. Just need to hoop this last one.
Paulo gave me on my test spring shirt.
Oh, did he?
And once I see outside every day.
Well, that's the lady coming in and grabbing them. So I've just been taking my hoodie, laying it out flat, and I'm putting this about 5 fingers down. So I'm just taking my hoop. And it's the same hoop that I've been using for everything. It's the C-size hoop. So I get my hoop about as center as I can, making sure that we've got everything lined up to the center seam right here. I'm just gonna take my stabilizer. This is a cutaway stabilizer. Let my hoop just rest on the back of the shirt, or hoodie I should say. And I'm wanting it about, what I ended up with is just making sure that the inside of my hoop is about 2 of my fingers down, which will put us about 5 inches down in the center. So there we go. I need to move this over just a little bit. And I'm taking some of the aqua top. I'm gonna take my hoop, make sure everything is nice and centered here. Using our marks here, just making sure that it's in line with the seam. Then I'm just gonna make sure all of this is parallel, looking pretty centered. Might need to move it over just a hair. Looks good to me. And we'll just press it down. And we'll hold it up, make sure it's nice and level. I'm happy with that. So now we're gonna toss it on the machine. There we go, it's all finished. Looks awesome. I am all finished with the order. I think everything looks fantastic. Now we just need to box everything up. I really appreciate y'all for tuning in. Keep in mind, we have a promo code for the Ricoma embroidery machine. Not just that machine in particular, but they do have low or 0% financing, low payment options. If you use our link, which I'll put down in the description, it will kick a commission our way, so that way we can continue to make content on embroidery, and also will go towards our machine. Until next time, we'll see you later.